My name is Karen Taylor, and I'm the CTA IPD staff person in Region 4. IPD stands for Instruction and Professional Development Department, and we've been running a series of webinars in order to address the COVID-19 shutdown. So today I have some very special guests with me. So I have Scott Homrighausen. He's a teacher of adult transition program. I have Josh Amstone, who's a mild moderate teacher, and Leah Guillen, who is in the Mod Severe program called V.O.I.C.E.S. And they all teach at Westminster High in Huntington Beach. And they're going to be talking to you all just about what's working, what's not working, and what it's been like taking their brick and mortar classrooms to virtual learning like the rest of you. And if you have any questions, there is a Q&A down at the very bottom. You guys can go ahead and use that to ask questions. Since there's about 45 of you, we will be able to answer questions. And you can find this recording at cta.org/IPD trainings. And I'll post that at the very end as well. So let's go ahead and get started. Do the three of you want to tell me kind of a little bit about your programs, what it normally looks like? We can start with, let's start with Josh.
Sure. Yeah. So as you just said, I teach mild moderate, which I guess for most districts would be equivalent to like a resource program. Although our district has gone away with that model and have blended RSP and SDC. So we just call it mild mod. So I teach mostly language arts, English, freshman English, and I have students in my classes ranging functioning-wise, ranging anywhere from probably about third grade level to just a couple years shy of being at grade level.
Okay, how about Leah?
So I teach the program, which we have a vocational focus because we have the severely handicapped population. And our students are really there to learn more, even from toileting to building independence, to be hopefully in a job someday in the vocational field of their choice, and learn how to live independently and function at the highest level possible for independence.
Okay, thank you. And Scott, what about your program? What does that look like typically?
Yeah, so our adult transition program at Westminster, we started 3 years ago. This is our third year. Most of my students come to me through Leah's V.O.I.C.E.S program. So they're graduates of her program, and then typically they'll come to my program. In adult transition, we're focused on a lot of community-based instruction, independent living skills, kind of all those skills that my students are going to need as they prepare to exit from the program. Just getting ready for either day programs or a supported work environment, things like that.
So how has this whole shutdown impacted your programs and how you work with your students?
Yeah.
Who wants to go first on that?
I can go ahead and jump in on that. So, I mean, the three of us up here, we're as just in the thick of this as anybody is. We're figuring it out as we go. For me, I've been kind of fortunate in that I've been using Google Classroom in the classroom setting prior to the shutdown as a platform for students to have access to their assignments and use that as a submission platform. So in that regard, in terms of the technology aspect, that's been a relatively smooth transition. I am having to change a lot of my assignments and obviously like add a lot more instructions. It's almost like writing subplans. It's almost like writing subplans for a sub, but for your kids. So I'm having to kind of write out a lot of details and things like that. But my approach is I'm just trying to keep it simple. We're really kind of just in the beginning phases of figuring this out. And today I was grading some assignments that I thought was really simple. And it turned out that a lot of the kids I can see are struggling with it. So I'm finding that even when I try to simplify things, what I think is simple is not so much. So I'm having to kind of back up a little bit with that.
What programs are you using to work with your students?
No,
go ask your dad. Sorry, I've got my 4-year-old.
That's right. So I'm using like all of the Google applications, which is basically Google Classroom as the learning platform, and then I send Google Docs and Google Slides to all the kids. I'm pretty much like 99% Google.
So your students are already familiar with it, and have you had a good turnout in terms of are you doing live teaching at all, or is it just mostly recorded videos and then communicating with them?
Yes, Alexa,
I'm doing something.
So I'm doing live sessions 1 day a week. That's kind of like the district model that our school is going with. And of course, that's kind of, they want to try to get everybody to like follow the regular bell schedule for at least 1 day a week. Then times outside of that, it's up to each teacher how often they want to meet with the kids and in terms of live sessions. So I'm doing the Wednesday live sessions, and then also offering like live Google Meet video sessions for kids who want extra help, kind of like a tutorial.
That's awesome. Have you had students take you up on that offer for the extra help?
No.
No, not yet, huh?
Hey, it's the reality that they're teenagers, and plus with our population, like that's something I'll kind of hit on a little bit later. But I think that we're going to get lucky to get high participation rates, and I know a lot of us have been spending a lot of time really reaching out to kids and trying to make calls to families and sending emails and stuff, and still not getting the response. And I feel like I'm kind of at a moment of like trying to kind of shift my energy to more of like focusing on the kids who are there. I'm going to continue to try to reach out to the other kids. But I think it's easy to lose focus and just kind of trying to keep reaching out to those who aren't responding instead of spending more time and energy on those kids who are.
Yeah, that makes sense. Stephanie Stottlemyre has a question for you. She says, Westminster is still offering, she's asking, is Westminster still offering support and services for students with IEPs? She's asking because her district, which is in Orange County also, did not for the first 3 weeks. We were enrichment only district-wide. I think that's changing next week. So are you still offering supports and services?
Yes, we are. And I don't know what specific supports and services that you're looking for in your situation, but all of our support providers, like our psychs, kids who have counseling, are all getting that through either phone calls or Google Meet or through email. All our psychs are checking in on kids for counseling services. For speech and language services, all of our SLPs are required to do video meet services for our kids. Then I even have a couple kids on my caseload who have OT and occupational therapy and physical therapy services, and those support providers are also checking in and sending the kids different resources and videos of exercises they could be doing at home and things like that.
Wow, that's awesome.
One of the services I provide is like a code talk class. So I'm making sure that I'm sitting in with my co-teacher on those sessions, and also offering tutorial for the kids who are in our co-talk class.
Okay, awesome. And I'll ask you guys about minutes and services in depth later. Okay, so I have a question. So Scott, how is that looking now? So it sounds like for Josh, it's been an easier transition for the most part, but how about for adult transition? And then we'll get to Leah.
Yeah, I mean, it's been challenging, I'll be honest. I am fortunate that we did do a lot with technology in my classroom this year before the shutdown. I think, had we not done that, we'd be in a much worse spot than we are now. We were fortunate. Our school went 1-to-1 on Chromebooks year before last, so we've had a lot more time with that, which for my students, it just takes time. A lot of them are still working on just logging in using a visual prompt. As far as right now, I feel like the biggest thing is just connecting with the families, because my students need a lot of support to get through the day. So, you know, I'm not yet expecting them to be independently logging into their emails, going to our Google Classroom. So just trying to make as many connections with as many of our families as possible. And they all have different situations, right? I mean, people have lost jobs, people, you know, and then when I can't reach through to a parent, I try to find a sibling, because, you know, a lot of the siblings are a lot more tech savvy than some of the parents. So that's been really helpful. And kind of what Josh was talking about, where you kind of have to have this transition between, you know, how much effort am I putting in to getting in more people versus what am I doing with the ones that I have? You know, it's taken a lot longer to get my students on board, but that definitely is, you know, the quality, people are joining in, it's getting better. So I am starting to kind of shift my focus towards, you know, the students that I do have that are sending me emails, filling out their Google forms, things like that.
That's fantastic. Have you had a pretty positive response from parents?
Yeah, every parent,
I mean, I know they're 18 to 22, but I mean, I'm
right,
sure
yeah,
you've
no,
got families involved.
Parents and families play a big role in the lives of all of my students. And yes, I would say the reaction from parents has been positive. You know, some are able to do more than others, just based on all sorts of different circumstances. So, you know, I try to make it as easy as possible. I try to, you know, teach my families to basically be the new teachers. You know, they're the new aides.
Yeah.
Like, that's who the parents and the siblings are. You know, and with the siblings, like, they can be really helpful, but I know that they also have a lot going on. They're now trying to figure out how to go to school online, and, you know, everyone's just having to figure out a lot really quickly here. So
Yeah, absolutely. Absolutely. So someone has a question. Do you use unique curriculum or attainment for students? Troy Sorrell says their students are more severe to profound and medically fragile, but they're mostly adult transition students.
was the question, do we use the unique learning system?
Yeah.
Yeah, so we've been using that in my class prior to this. I already had all my students set up with individual profiles and logins. What I did was, for our families that were picking up Chromebooks, I made sure that they had like an easy access news to you button just pinned right down on the bottom of their Chromebook to make it as easy as possible for getting in. I'm using the ULS My Plan to deliver different lessons each day of the week. So kind of my rough idea for now is I try to get all my students to log into our Google Classroom one day a week. I do a YouTube video every morning where I kind of welcome the students, thank those that are checking in. I blast that out to all my students, all my families. So they get that every day. So at least they can see, you know, something. And then I kind of give them some direction for the day in that video. Then on the Google Classroom, I have a little to-do list for them, which will include some ULS activities. And then I'm working on developing like a daily check-in form, so they can tell me, you know, not just what day of the week it is, but, you know, how are you feeling today? You know, and that's all picture supported. What are you going to do to help at home today? Are you going to vacuum? Are you going to do the dishes? What are you going to do to help? And then beyond that, we just do, like this week, we had a cooking lesson today. So I made a cooking video. We're making
Awesome.
Posted that up, and then I have a little recipe review for them to go fill out. You know, not everybody's accessing it, but those that are, I'm getting a positive response, and I'm keep trying to bring more people in.
Fantastic. That sounds great. Thank you. And I know this information is really helpful for teachers because we've been getting these questions for about a month. So thank you. Leah, I want to hear from you, and I know everyone else does too. Tell me about how your program has moved to more of a virtual environment.
Well, we had done once a week kind of pair deck activity, so they were familiar with signing into Chromebooks, but our Chromebooks were a class set versus go home every day because of some of the mobility issues of some of our students, and the families really just wanted them to keep them at school. So then our initial thing we had to do was get Chromebooks to our students. So that was done through the district. I think we're down to 4 students that haven't picked them up yet, which is pretty good. We started live on Tuesday, where we're giving curriculum to our students throughout our district. And our first day back, we're supposed to do on Wednesdays, have some sort of face-to-face with our classrooms, follow their schedules. We found that with our students that was a little bit cumbersome because like we block our third and fourth together so we can go out in the community and stuff because we have a regular bell schedule. So what we've done is like co-teach first period music. So I attend that class on Wednesday mornings. And then my third and fourth, which I really have blocked together, we've decided to go caseload only. And the reason is we put all these classes out because our students follow 6 periods a day.
Yeah.
We created all these classes and they're overwhelmed. They're just, it's too much. So we decided to keep them in all their gen ed classes, including unified PE. And we have shifted to the rest of the school day is going to be their caseload. So
Okay.
just some advice on that. I mean, we tried to follow what the typical school was doing, and our students, I don't think were responding very positively towards it. And Scott was in on that too. We were kind of doing it all together. But I will tell you our first day live, and these are students that are severely handicapped. Out of 46 students, we had 20 students show up to our first day live. And we were thrilled. It was just wonderful. You could have cut the joy with a knife.
Aw.
I mean, they were just beside themselves. I mean, honestly, I brought it up at DC meetings, sharing about how awesome it was. I almost started crying. It was like, it was like so neat. They just got to see each other. They got to see the staff, and they were just ear to ear smiles. And that worked really well. So we're thinking the few that weren't able to make it, we're going to persist and have them join as well. So we started our first day as a meet and greet. We didn't put academic pressure on them. And now we'll start in with, you know, hey, join your caseload class. There's activities for you to do, as well as the ULS that we assign weekly, which includes independent living, English, and math. And that's what we're going to do for the rest of the year, just to try to simplify it for everyone involved.
So you're basically, you've taken your caseload and that's who you're teaching, really. That's how you've kind of divided it.
Around the gen ed classes, yes.
Gotcha. Okay. So have your students been doing workability jobs? Any of you?
So our workability has contacted our students. They created a Google class for transition services.
Okay.
So Josh, I know that a lot of Josh's students are seen in that classroom forum. Have you heard anything back?
Yeah, so I know our transition services program has created Google Classrooms for the kids to service that way, and they're doing activities with them through Google Classroom, like questionnaires and things like that. And then surprisingly, I found out that one of the kids on my caseload, she had got a job through workability, working at KFC, and I found out that she's still working. So I don't know.
Oh, wow.
I don't know if I should be upset over that or like be happy that like that's cool. She's still working. So yeah, that to say that a lot of the kids are still involved through our transition services, and we have our transition services program. They have a lot of instructional aides in that program who are assigned different grade levels and different areas, and they've been doing a lot of reaching out to kids.
Yeah, that actually brings me to Mary Ainsworth's question. How are you using paraeducators in providing distance services? That's a great question.
So we actually, we typically have our paraeducators go with each student to where the student need is. So maybe a student needs help in unified PE, but they don't need help in independent living, or they need help in English, but not, you know, wherever the need is. So what we've decided to do is assign aides per caseload classroom now. And they've joined in on the classroom on Google Classroom with our caseloads. And they are helping with creating and monitoring. We have folders that we put their IEP goals in with activities associated with their IEP goals. So they're going to be helping, meeting with the students that need to meet, helping them walk through some of those activities or get started on them or encouraging them. We also had some of our ULS stories read in Google Slides.
Oh, awesome.
So they could hear the aides' voices.
Yeah.
Heartwarming versus the, ULS voice, which is computerized.
Yes.
And it just, so we've had
cool.
4 aides read stories that we've put out for for activities for our students to do. So they have a familiar voice.
That's awesome.
We also have them helping them with their work. So they have emailed students just checking on them. They have we have had 3 that have been contacted by students to help them with their math work, and they've done that. So, and we also have a small group that will not get on a computer, or parents not interested, doesn't want, because of their ability level, they feel that it's too much for them or whatever, that we are having our aides make copies of packets we're going to be making of our ULS curriculum and goal work to go home.
Wow, that's so much work you guys are doing to coordinate. That's awesome, though. I'm actually going to share this idea with the CDE because we were just talking about this today and trying to figure out how paraprofessionals could support students. So I think that's a really great idea, and hopefully people are taking notes on this. I have some other questions here. This is from Ilana. What is your district doing in terms of holding annuals, triennials, and with assessments? Have you guys decided that? Was that something that was all agreed upon?
That information is forthcoming. Leah will probably might have a little more to say about that than me, but I know that we have been told that we are going to have to start IEPs after spring break, hold up through our phone. We're just waiting for our district to give us protocol on how that's going to look.
Yeah, and CTA has guidance on that, so you can go to our leader resources and look under COVID-19, and we do have guidance on that for people who are interested.
Great, I'll look that up. But we do have a plan. We have started some forms that we're going to be used and some language that will need to be added to each IEP because we have several that are past the annual date. But it's in process.
And I was going to ask you guys, I was curious, are you able to meet the minutes currently in your students' IEPs, or have you had to do addendums? I mean, how have you guys been addressing that?
So we are not needing minutes, but that will be part of the language.
Gotcha.
We will be available our normal work hours, but we're not going to be live teaching everywhere. And that would be too much for our students.
No, it would be. It would be absolutely too much.
Yeah.
And we've also talked about how if gen ed students are getting like 30 minutes a day of live instruction, then that's kind of 100% for students with IEPs.
And we are being comparable. So, I mean, everybody doesn't have a specific they have to follow. If a teacher wants to go Tuesday, Thursdays in their second period because they know that's period struggles and they want to give 30 minutes every Tuesday, Thursday to that class, they can do that,
That's great.
There's no cookie cutter, but we do have, the only thing, I won't say mandated, but suggested, is that we do some sort of connection on Wednesdays per class.
Okay. That's great. That's helpful. This question is for Josh from Mia. Do you have resources you are using for high school English graphic organizers for students with disabilities to give to gen ed English teachers?
Like, not really like general ones, just like the teacher that I work with for my team class will scaffold assignments together. So if you're asking for like specific things or like if I have specific resources that I refer to. So like, I guess the biggest thing is just scaffolding assignments. And then something with accommodations that I've been doing a lot of is giving them digital tools to use. And I did that in the classroom also. One of the biggest ones is something called Snap and Read.
I'm going to put that in the chat. Snap and Read?
Yeah, Snap and Read. It's snap, ampersand, read, no spaces. That's great. That'll read any text aloud that's on the screen, because obviously we have to meet our do our best to meet students' accommodations during this time also.
Yeah.
One of the common accommodations our students have is read aloud. So I'm either doing that, giving them access to that, sending them videos on how to use that. I've showed them in class because I have them do it in class, but a lot of the kids don't do it. Of course, things like Grammarly to help them with their grammar and writing.
Yep,
Yeah,
that's a
I've
good
sent
one.
them to.
Have you ever used readwritethink.org? They have like a lot of interactive graphic organizers. I'll share that one with everyone.
Yeah, that's a good one.
Okay. Let's see. Some other questions here. For your live classes, are you using Zoom? And do you have any tips for classroom management? And that comes from Karima.
We've been using Google Meet for our online settings. I think, and Josh, maybe using Canvas, or are you doing?
I'm using Google Meet also.
Yeah.
Google Meet.
As far as classroom management, I think you just gotta be real quick with the mute button, keeping people, giving people time, and then stopping them when it's not time. Especially in our setting, what Leah was talking about, we had 26 students in there. It was crazy. I mean, it was like our classroom. It's a lot of fun. One thing that I've changed with the Google Meet is adding the grid view. There's an extension for that. I don't know if that was out before and I just found out about it, but that's great because then you can see everybody at one time. So that's a lot better than before where it would take like the one picture and you'd have a couple on the side. So being able to see all the students at one time, I think is a big improvement with that.
Oh, that's awesome. That's awesome. Okay, I'm going to get that one. Is there anything else? We have some more questions, but anything else you want to share, like maybe what has not been working or things like you're still trying to figure out? Like I have some of the adult transition stuff up here that you had shared with me earlier, but what are you guys still kind of struggling with? And, I know none of us have all the answers, right? This is a new situation, so.
Yeah, I mean, for me, that biggest part is what I put under the what is missing. My class is so heavy on community-based instruction and just like gone, I can't have them out. I can't be telling them to go practice riding the bus right now. That's not a good idea, right? We had our off-campus job sites that we were going to once, twice a week. It was funny on the last day of school, actually, that week we were doing what's called our staff lunch program, where we pick a different department every week. My students go around, they distribute menus, they collect orders from those teachers. And then on Friday, we go to a local restaurant. And each student has, 1 or 2 orders. They get to practice,
cool.
Changing money, collecting the orders. They're doing that all with other teachers' money, so they don't have to bring anything in. And, it came to be Friday and I had to go to Leah. I'm like, Leah, what do I do? Like, we've now collected all these orders and our district, I guess we can't go on field trips at all. So, I had to go take everything over there. And it was one of the saddest moments of my career to be like up at this counter handing over like $5 bills to get all these sandwiches. It's so tough with ATP. I mean, I know that right now, just from having to get up to speed on email, get up to speed with Google Classroom, accessing YouTube, like we're working on good skills and a lot of those will translate into a vocational setting.
Yeah.
But I need to find a way, aside from just having them watch YouTube videos, like
I'm just gonna,
how can we be working on these types of like more office oriented vocational skills, which is just something my students haven't been doing. So that's one thing that's a big piece that's missing for us.
Yeah, that's tough. And I guess the reality is nobody can go out in the community right now safely. So that's unfortunately one of those gaps we're just going to have to deal with. Yeah. What else? What about mild, moderate, or the V.O.I.C.E.S program? Any things that just aren't working or?
For mild mod, I mean, given that, the kids I'm working with are more academic and diploma bound, just kids not reading instructions. Obviously, during this time, we're going to rely a lot on written format of things, and so it's been kind of challenging to get kids to make sure that they're reading all instructions. And I try to make my instructions as complete but concise as possible. And when kids submit turn assignments, I can still tell that they're not reading instructions. So kind of another reason for keeping things just simple and as straightforward as possible. And then also with feedback, that's been a challenge too, like giving kids written feedback. That takes more time and more energy, obviously, to provide kids with written feedback. And I don't know if they're actually reading it. So that's been a challenge too, of just not having that immediate interaction with kids and being able to kind of gauge their level of understanding and adjust based off of that right away.
Yeah, that's tough. What about you, Leah, in the V.O.I.C.E.S program?
Back on what Josh said, the instructions not following directions. And then we have our multilingual families that don't know how to read the instructions that Josh has sent or how to help. So we have, our interpreters, and they're translating and doing all they can. But, every single day you can't have everything translated, and every teacher. So
yeah.
That's kind of a battle too, since our school is a very diverse school. We have a very diverse population, a high Vietnamese and Hispanic population. And so like our OT, I had her join my Google caseload classroom. And then so the kids that have OT in there, she has sent home activities they can be doing at home to work on their OT. And then I had her have that translated into the 3 languages.
Wow.
So they could all access something to be working on an OT at home. Our APE teacher, she's adorable. She has taken their APE goals and gotten all of their equipment they need, and she's going to package them up and mail them home with instructions.
Wow.
To be doing at home. I mean, we'll probably never see this stuff again, but the bottom line is they have access. And they have the ability to work on these things if the families are supporting people in their homes, help them out.
Absolutely. Absolutely. Okay, so I have some more questions for you all. Let's see. I can ask, Mary has a question. I can answer this. She's asking about direct assessment, professional organizations are advising against it for psychs. Yeah, so I think the federal guidance really is, if you have to do assessments where you would need to be face-to-face, then you might have to put those IEPs off, and the federal government and the state is being flexible in terms of those timelines. It's really a case-by-case basis. It sounds like you guys don't know exactly how the IEPs are going to be set up. Is that correct? That's still, you guys are working on that? Because Colleen is asking about that. Hi, Colleen.
We do know they will be virtual.
Okay.
So we do know that for sure. So we will be starting them. They will be virtual. We will have all the members that are needed to be there have to be included, and we have to prepare for that. So that's our next hurdle.
Yeah, no kidding. Okay, I've got a lot of questions here. Josh, is your district moving towards pass-fail grades for this semester? How is math instruction going? That's from Karima.
We're still waiting to hear exactly what to do with grades. We've been strongly encouraged to adopt the CDE's no harm grading of not being able to give kids grades that would lower their grades based off of what they previously had going into the school closures. So I personally, I think something's going to be decided statewide for grading. That's just kind of my own feeling. We'll see.
Okay.
In the V.O.I.C.E.S program, we're all credit, no credit, and so is the ATP. We've never given a grade, so it's not a.
So we've been told that we can give kids zeros for assignments they don't do, but we've been warned that we may have to remove those at some time. So that gives us kind of an indication of the direction we're going to be going with grading.
Yeah, and even though teachers do have a purview of grades, it really has to be within the confines of the district policies. So if the district policy is, right now, no harm to students, then teachers have to follow that. So I just learned some of that this week. What Colleen asks, what type of data are you all taking for IEP goals and communication with students? So let's start with Scott.
Yeah, so right now, most of the data that I'm getting will be coming from the ULS, since they've made some changes there where you can now collect, how many out of how many did the student get right on a multiple choice question, things like that. I think over, kind of over spring. We're coming up on our spring break this next week, so it's kind of a chance
great.
to catch our breath a little bit and figure out, okay, you know, where's this going from now? We know this is going to be till the end of the year for us. What are the next steps in turning this into, you know, a fully functioning distance learning class? Definitely want to work on setting up some Google Forms that I'll be able to collect some data from my students. But right now, those are my primary ones. As far as my students that were, you know, supposed to be spending 60 minutes on a job site, that's going to be a tough one, you know. It just kind of, it is what it is, you know. So that's what we're doing.
Okay. How about you, Leah? How are you guys collecting data?
We have been putting up, we have a lot of forms that we created with our symbol sticks through the ULS. Daily checklists for, you know, if they had a task goal, you know, that they would checking list as far as like hygiene. Did they brush their teeth? Did they take a shower? Did they complete the task list? And they've been actually marking them and returning them back to us. A lot of them are with the Google Forms that we did a recipe review in Google Forms. And then we are also going to be checking on goals and doing data collection with video meets. So with the Google Meets, the video section, because if it's something we need to see or whatever, an aide can meet with them and we're going to have them watch for that and they'll be able to collect the data on that, or myself, or however that looks. But that's our plan right now. In the Google Classroom, we actually have a file for each kid with their IEP goals in there.
That's what
so
you
we
said.
know what they are. And we're adding curriculum to that. Like if it's 3 or 4 trials, we want at least 3 of them up there.
And you said that you also had activities, right? So that paraprofessionals could actually work with students independently on those goals, right?
And we've added them to the classroom.
Yeah, that's fantastic. Okay. And then how about you, Josh? What type of data in the mild moderate program are you using or taking for IEP goals and communication?
We use Google Forms also. We'll send out forms to the teachers with the kids' goals and asking for input, because I don't necessarily have all the kids on my caseload in any of my classes. They're all kind of spread out amongst teachers. Yeah. So for gathering data toward progress on IEP goals, a lot of it's going to have to be based off of the days in school prior to the school closure, because I don't know that we can accurately assess how students are progressing toward their goals if they're not really working on the assignments, or we don't know what kind of level of help they're getting at home and so forth. So we just do the best we can with gathering whatever information we can and from whoever we can.
Yeah, I mean, that's kind of hard because it's hard to do formative assessment with students who aren't participating. And it sounds like Colleen had asked, what are you doing with students who are not participating? It sounded like I heard you guys are right now most of your teachers, or you guys are, or at least the 3 of you, are focusing on really students who are showing up. Is that at this point?
We have a form that our administration sent out to us for students that we have reached out to by email or even called, because we can use the Google call. Is that the Google chat call? I'm not sure what it's called officially, but it keeps your number private and you can call from your actual computer. And I have had a lot of success with that. The other part of that is once we have so many days, like we've had 3 weeks now, of no contact, even though we have made efforts, there's a little link that our admin has given us that we click on and add their name to it. And they're personally, I mean, it might even go down to well checks. So they're personally making the efforts to contact these families and these students to try to get them on board.
Oh, that's great. I know. And you have to still do that safely without, doing home. Yeah, that's really tough. So, okay. Thank you.
Yeah, we have a handful of platforms to reach out to parents too. Our school uses something called Parent Square, which is a web-based program that sends out like text messages to the parents for the primary means of contact they put in the system when they register the students. And then of course sending messages through directly to their emails, student emails, through our learning platforms, Canvas, Google Classroom. Even using Google calls for people who don't want to use their personal cell phones to call families, Skype Scott actually showed us how to all make calls through Google to families. So we're attempting those things.
Awesome.
Yeah, lots of effort to reach families for sure.
I definitely think, you know, when everyone goes back, hopefully in the fall, that this will really kind of help bring everyone along with some new technology, and, you know, we'll be in a much better spot if this happens again. So that's cool. I mean, I didn't know about Google Voice either, so I think that's neat. Scott, is there anything else? I know you'd already talked about this before, but is there anything else you want to add to this about students who aren't participating?
It's something like I'm not gonna give up on, you know, and I know for some of my students, the problem is right now, yeah, maybe we've given them a Chromebook and that's great, but they don't have internet access at home. Like that, the Chromebook's not gonna do any good. So, you know, just continue to work with our administrators on making sure that we get out, you know, whether it's a Wi-Fi hotspot or whatever it is.
Oh, that's good.
You know, I'm not one to give up on any of my students. So whether it's, you know, working with the administrators, making a phone call, having one of our translator or community liaisons continue to make those calls, even if it's just to find out how that student's doing.
Yeah.
You know, I understand that for some families right now, like trying to get work done is not going to work for them. And I understand that. That's okay. But I want to know how my students are doing, just because this is tough on a lot of them.
Yeah, absolutely. I mean, we're all in a crisis situation. It's mass trauma, and there's going to be effects, and, you know.
Even if kids aren't responding, like, I think most of them are still receiving the messages. And as Scott's pointed out, I think one of the things that's going to be most lasting on these kids during this time is that we did show that we cared.
Yeah, I think so too. Is there anything else you guys want to talk about or share with our teachers who are on here? Or I can ask them questions. Like, I'm just curious. I think I'm going to ask them, like, so if you guys can give me a 1 if you are a special ed teacher. Let's just see who out there. We've got 60 people on. So who's a special ed teacher? If you guys can just put 1 in the chat. Can you guys, Scott, Josh, and Leah, can you all see the chat?
Yeah.
So quite a few. Yeah, pretty much. Are there any gen ed teachers? Hit 2 if you're a gen ed teacher. I know we have a school psychologist in here. Okay, so mostly special ed. Yeah, so anything else either the audience wants to ask or anything you guys want to share just about any advice or other thoughts you have on this whole situation and how you guys are dealing with it?
I'd like to add something that we made sure was happening with our aides and our teachers and our service providers. We started a Google document, which is a log of every contact we have with every student and what kind of contact that was and what it was pertaining to. And we all put it in this one document that we can see. That way you have a record of what kind of contact you've made with the families and the students. And you're not in 10 different areas. You can just go to that one resource and see the efforts that were made to the families and to the students, you know, because this is a family student kind of situation at this point. You know, we're relying on families with our students. We have a lot of nonverbal kids or kids in wheelchairs with, you know, orthopedic handicapping conditions, and they can't access the computer. We're relying on the families, you know, to get to the computers and have access. Yeah, absolutely. How about any students in gen ed? Kristen asks, how are you supporting students on an IEP? They're in gen ed classrooms. And so do any of your, well, I'm sure I know Josh has kids in gen ed classes, but I'm sure Leah, you do too. How are you guys supporting them? I think you explained that, but maybe you could talk about that again.
Yeah, sure. I started it by just sending emails to the kids on my caseload, checking in, seeing how they're doing, asking how their classes are going so far this week, and just asking them to let me know if there's any concerns, any questions they have, any confusion. And so the first and most basic way is through email support. And then I'm also making myself available to them through video chat. I have spoken with a couple of my kids through video chat. to kind of help them through navigating some things. And of course, communicating with the teachers if there are any issues that are coming up, they're not understanding something and they're not able to communicate it to, themselves, then I reach out to the teachers on their behalf, as well as just staying in touch with parents.
Yeah, it seems like it's a lot of time spent just on communicating and reaching out.
A lot of time spent communicating, for sure.
Have a little bit of a different, in our situation, we don't send our students to a gen ed classroom without aid support.
Yeah.
We have taken the stance of have every single gen ed classroom that our students are in are still going to continue to attend those classes, and our aides will be added to those classes and attend the classes with them.
Okay.
As if they would during the school day. So they can be privy to their assignments, how to help, you know, complete the assignments, whether it's on Canvas, because we don't use Canvas in the Voices program, but if you're in a gen ed class, they do. So
Wow.
help them to, you know, whatever, if they need to come to me and say, how do I modify this assignment? I can modify it and then give it to them to turn, you know, work with the student and turn in, whatever that looks like. But we have the aides heavily involved in the gen ed portion.
That is fantastic. I think that is really key.
Yeah.
So and we have actually someone on here, Vicki Nelson. She will be, she is a teacher in Elk Grove. She's going to be doing a training on the 20th for us, sharing how she's communicating and supporting the CTE program and her students with IEPs. So people might be interested in coming back to that on the 20th. We're trying to share as many different ideas about special ed as possible because unfortunately, I think this is our student population that could really fall through the cracks. As you guys know and have talked about, I mean, just even knowing if they're okay and not hearing from them for 3 weeks, I'm sure, you know, you've built relationships with these students. You know, that can be emotional, I'm sure, for everyone here. So, okay, so I think we have answered all the questions. And you guys, do you have anything else to share? If not, we will close out. It's a Friday night, so we'll close out and I'll just share what's going on next. So any final words? It's been so awesome having you guys here, by the way. It's been very helpful.
Yeah, I just think, you know, it's easy to get wrapped up in how difficult this has been for everybody, the hardships that everyone's going through. And we kind of alluded to it earlier. Like, this is also a tremendous, a tremendous opportunity. You know, to build these relationships with families that maybe weren't as strong because we saw the students every day. You know, we didn't need as much from families. You know, technological literacy for our students, Leah's students, like, that's going to be huge. Like, these students are going to come away with some skills that they would not have had before. So
absolutely,
it's important to stay optimistic and stay positive, and to be an example of that for our students, you know.
Yeah, I just want to thank you for having us. And I just want to, our students are going to surprise us, you guys.
Yes.
They are going to surprise us and in a very good way. I have a student that pretends he can't sign into his email on a weekly basis. But guess what? He's on Google Chat right now, chatting me. It's pretty cool.
Awesome.
Yeah.
Awesome. You're welcome.
I have a kid who in class doesn't do a whole lot. He's, you know, what we call a challenging kid, and he's been really thriving through this. And you know, so we're going to have a lot of kids who don't participate, and there's gonna be a lot of moments when we feel like we're not successful. But when we feel that way, you know, remember the kids, like this kid I'm referring to who has been thriving through all of this, and the kids who are learning all these executive functioning skills, they're learning real life skills of how to communicate. So, you know, I think we just need to kind of shift our mindset when we approach all of this. And my overall approach has been kind of like treating this more like extended school year. For those of us who are in SPED know that the main purpose of that is to keep kids from regressing. It's going to be really challenging to help kids grow during this time in our academic content areas, but they're going to grow in a lot of other areas. So, I mean, in terms of the academics, just keep it. There's a lot of things, a lot of like websites and tools and stuff that are being thrown our way of try this innovative tool and this innovative tool. Don't try to get innovative right now. Stick to what's familiar to you and what's familiar to the kids. And yeah.
And just one last thing I'd like to say, You know,
Go for it.
we're being directed to extend a lot of grace to our students right now, especially when it comes to the grading and stuff. Don't forget to extend grace to yourself.
Yes.
You know, we're also part of the crisis, and we need to remember, let's do the best we can as we can, but we're not going to be perfect. We're learning too. And give grace to your students and give grace to yourself.
Absolutely.
Yeah, it's super important. I think the internet doesn't have a turn off button. It's always on. So I think that kind of makes us feel like we always need to be on. And I think that's one of the personal challenges I'm facing of all this is now my work environment has blended into my home environment, and the time has overlapped too. So it's been really challenging to kind of create that structure of separating my workplace and my home and family place. And so I think that's important for all of us to work on that balance as well.
Absolutely. Which actually next Thursday, I am doing a webinar with a colleague of mine on exactly that, like how to set up healthy boundaries for working at home and cultivating healthy habits. So, hey, if you guys want to join us, Angela and Sue and I are going to be talking about that because that's really like one of my passions is self-care and health and wellness. So I think that's a great way to end this. If you guys go to cta.org IPD trainings /IPD trainings, this is where you guys register to see the calendar. We have a webinar series next week. So Monday, Tuesdays, all TK through 2. Wednesday, if you're using Zoom, we have a webinar and advice how to use Zoom from one of our staff. We've got the self-care on Thursday. And then, like I said, on the 20th, it's not up yet, but there's going to be a webinar on how one of our resource teachers who now works in the CTE program is working to support students with disabilities. So just go here, and then for a recording, so the recording for the website will be right here at the top. So for today, it'll probably be up Monday or Tuesday because it takes us a few days to coordinate. And if you click on it, it'll take you to this YouTube channel. So it'll be right there. And we don't have any handouts for this. But, you know, if you have any questions or would like to see something else, email us at ipd@cta.org. And let's see, where's the chat? I'm used to running this with an extra screen. So ipd@cta.org. And if you guys can just all give our panelists a hand. I just want to thank you guys so much for taking the time on Friday afternoon to talk about what you're all doing. And everybody here is doing a great job. Just hang in there, everybody. And this has been awesome. So
Thank you.
You're welcome. Hey, have a great weekend. Enjoy your spring break.
You as well. Have a great weekend.
Okay, thanks. You too. Bye-bye.